Interesting situation we've got going on here. Thank you, Enthusiasm, for the tag. Thank you all for tuning in. And let's take a look at what this tweet says. At Hero Hey, remember how Shawn Shiplock, that being the VA for Deluge in Genshin, said he's going to continue withholding work in Hoyoverse? Yeah, guess we have another hypocrite on our hands. I was like already in my mind imagining comments there. That's why I messed up my words. I was imagining comments making fun of me for saying Deluge, even though I know it's Deluge. But yeah, anyways, let's take a look at what Shawn Shiplock said, because I do remember this, yes. But let's get the exact post from his Blue Sky. Back on June 12th, just a week ago, basically, give or take some change. Days being the change, of course. Just getting this out of the way, says Shawn Shiplock, so folks can share when people inevitably start asking. No, the SAG-AFTRA strike ending does not mean that the hashtag Genshin cast strike is also over. Genshin is non-union, and SAG's contracts have no say on it. The cast strike is an independent collective work refusal. See this thread for more info. Genshin cast members independently chose to join the effort to ask for better protections on the project, and it is up to independently if they want to return without them. What the frick? Why is he capitalized independently like that? It just makes it like look funny. As a non-union project, Genshin does not get the SAG agreement benefits. So yeah, obviously it's two separate things. We've discussed that plenty of times in the past. But it's still a reasonable concern, or excuse me, a reasonable inquiry, if you will, that people would wonder if the collective work refusal will continue to go on, considering that they were attempting to leech the momentum from the official strike since the inception of the collective work refusal. And without the official strike still going on, people were wondering like, well, yeah, it's different, but maybe they'll try and wrap that up too. Sure enough, a lot of the VAs are trying to wrap it up, which other speculation would point to them just being scared of getting recast, as we've recently seen happen to Kaylee Mills and Karina Boettiger. And it could be like a combination of both, with the official strike being done and with Hoyoverse starting to recast more and more people. A number of the VAs partaking in the unofficial collective work refusal against Hoyoverse may be thinking like, yeah, I think I need to get back to work, and I'm going to try and pretend like I always wanted to get back to work, and I was totally not trying to manipulate people into supporting this strike, aka Hutao VA. For anyone who missed the video from the other day, I'm referring to this tweet from Hutao's VA Briana, who said, guess the cat's out of the bag. I'm so happy to be back as Hutao, my precious ghosty girl. I love and missed her so much and couldn't be happier to be back, which directly conflicted with what she had previously said back in March. She responded to John Pat Node's statement on getting replaced by Jacob Takanashi as Kenichi, saying, thank you for standing strong and holding the line with us. You're a real one. And then going on to say, clears throat. Some of us shake my freaking head, throwing shade at Jacob Takanashi for being what these people would refer to as a scab. And so it's just very disingenuous to me, as I pointed out before, that here she's talking about the real ones being the people holding the line and refusing the work, but now she's over here acting like she's always wanted to get back to work, and she's so excited to get back to work, guys. It's really important to remember that they were all saying they wouldn't go back to work unless Hoyoverse signed the agreement. Well, Hoyoverse has not signed the agreement. On Hoyoverse's end, they literally nothing changed. These people did not get what they were demanding from Hoyoverse. So if she was serious before about it being so important to strike, and she's not going to go back to work until they sign something, it wouldn't line up with the way she's behaving now. It comes off disingenuous to me, in my opinion. Furthermore, and you're welcome to agree or disagree, of course, but furthermore, as we saw a moment ago, Shawn Shiplock and some of the other VAs who work on Genshin are still refusing the work, saying that the strike, the collective work refusal, is still continuing. But Briana was getting upset at Jacob Takanashi and others, potentially, for not standing in solidarity with the strike, saying that they're not real ones, basically, and saying like, shake my effing head at them, at Jacob. But hey, Briana, some of your fellow VAs that you were striking with still want the strike to continue, but now you're going back to work doing the exact same thing you were getting mad at Jacob Takanashi for months ago. And it sucks because I do think Briana does good work, and I think Hutao is an awesome character. Not that Briana is Hutao, but you know, I'm just saying she does a good job in her role of voicing Hutao. But like so many of these English VAs, even if a number of them do actually do good work, so many of them, far too many, are extremely unprofessional. And calling them unprofessional is by far the nicest way I could put it. There are probably a lot of other words you could use that would be more fitting than simply saying unprofessional, but I'll just leave it at that. So returning to the main, I guess like the main VA for today's news, that would be Shawn Shiplock, as he is in the news today. So let's get back to all that stuff. We left off on this tweet from Enthusiasm that once again said, remember how Shawn Shiplock said he's going to continue withholding work against Hoyoverse? Yeah, I guess we have another hypocrite on our hands. And linking me to this tweet. So I'll take a look at this. Star Rail Universe saying Zephyro. I don't play Star Rail. Sorry for the mispronunciations. I play Genshin and I still get half those names wrong. So of course it's going to be even worse for me in other Hoyo games. But Zephyro, Diluc, same English face, Shawn Shiplock. And so in the comments, people are calling this out. For example, right at the top here. Apparently it has a different contract. However, that also shows he's a hypocrite since Genshin is not okay, yet Honkai Star Rail is. Keep in mind, several VAs who are in Honkai Star Rail are still muted on this. And Genshin, why was Shawn given a special contract while the others weren't? That's assuming he even was really, which I don't think we know for sure, because I doubt he's going to post the contract. And even if he did, we would then need to see like other contracts to compare to know if it's abnormal or not. But I digress. Let's read a few more of these. Didn't Hoyoverse change Diluc's VA? How was he on Honkai Star Rail? I don't think they ever did, right? I'm assuming this comment's saying that they didn't do that. Currently, Diluc has not been recast and is still mute. Only Kinich, Paimon, and Kaching have had their voice actors changed. Yeah. Continuing. Dude is so afraid of Hoyoverse using his voice for AI that he went out and agreed to work on another one of their games where his audio will end up with Hoyoverse anyways. It's actually insane how disrespectful these people are to both foreign projects and their own fans. And then we've got this one. This one has by far the most likes. Let's take a look at what this one says. Quote, I don't want Hoyo to steal my voice. Dubbing studio having AI protection isn't enough. I need Hoyo to sign it because the recording will go to them anyways, unquote. Proceed to accept a role in another Hoyo game anyways. This reminds me, by the way, the tweet I was tagged to did have a second part to it, which is bringing up a point similar to some of the ones we just read. So let me go back. Hopefully, yeah, it should be right here. The second part said, oh, and he wouldn't be able to say things is somehow different for Honkai Star Rail compared to Genshin either, because as you can see in this video here, another striking VA, Anerys Q, should have voiced a character. That character, by the way, is FaShio, and says, but she isn't, and that character is silent. And if we go to that link, we're taken to this video that's just posted about 16 hours ago titled Myriad Celestia Trailer, Fables About the Stars Part 2 for Honkai Star Rail. It's an official video from Star Rail. And it does seem like FaShio is not voiced. I don't know for sure because one, as mentioned, I don't play Star Rail. I don't know for sure if this is FaShio. I'm pretty sure it is, but like, I don't know. I don't know, like beyond a shadow of a doubt, but I'm pretty sure that's FaShio. The second thing is I'm not 100% sure there's supposed to be a voice in this part anyways, but like, let's take a look briefly at this.
Swarm authors remains to kill a god. We just need to temper the hunt's arrowheads with ruin's golden blood.
Okay, so there's like a narrator. I'm assuming that's not FaShio. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not sure who's voicing that there and what character that is. But keep in mind that was like all voiced. Yeah, nothing. Let's pause just to be sure we're on the same page. This is now the scene with FaShio, and there's no voice going on. Again, this could be intentional, and there's not supposed to be a voice here, but it does seem a bit jarring because, like, throughout the entire thing so far, there was that other voice that you just heard that was, like, narrating things. For example, we skip, like, randomly back here.
Whether your words are trustworthy.
Oh, that's someone else, but still a voice.
Fine. As we always say on the Cienjo.
And there's the narrating voice, right? But then, yeah, we go to that FaShio scene once again, which was right about here. There's just nothing. A few more seconds.
A colleague told me that.
So yeah, and then a voice right after that. So it does seem presumably like they intended for this part to be voiced. If there's like a Japanese or CN version, we could take a look and compare that and see if there's a voice there, just to be sure. But just based off this alone, it does seem like FaShio is still on voiced, and there should have been a voice here, but there's not because refusing the work or something. This was a very odd situation with Anerys and FaShio because about 9 months ago, people noticed that, this is my recollection of what happened. About 9 months ago, people noticed that FaShio was on voiced, and I think Anerys even removed FaShio from her bio on Twitter or something like that happened. So people began to post on Reddit and stuff like, hey, did FaShio get fired? And then people were talking about like, well, there's the strike going on right now. Maybe this is related to that. Maybe FaShio, or excuse me, maybe Anerys was a part of the strike and then got fired. And then like at some point, Anerys protected and privated her whole account on Twitter. So that made people even more confused about what was going on. And eventually Anerys returns. I don't think she put FaShio back in her bio on Twitter though, but it is on Blue Sky. But FaShio does seem to still be unvoiced. So it's a very weird situation, like I mentioned. But making it all even weirder is that, according to my recollection, 9 months ago, Hoyoverse said that FaShio was unvoiced because of scheduling issues, or like scheduling conflict with the VA, that being Anerys. Now, the reason this is particularly interesting 9 months later, at this point in time, right now, is because according to Kaylee Mills, Hoyoverse said that they were terminating her because of scheduling conflicts, which is nearly identical, if not exactly identical, to what Hoyoverse apparently said about Anerys. But I don't think we have confirmation that Anerys is not working as FaShio. It seems like she still is. So, like you know, she still technically has the role, even though she's refusing to work. I don't think Hoyo's recasted FaShio. So again, the whole situation's really weird. Make of all that what you will. But that does give some more context onto this scene and the involvement of Anerys and FaShio and all that stuff. And then going back to what people said, if indeed Anerys is refusing to work as FaShio and is still FaShio, then it is even more so interesting that Shawn Shiplock is now voicing this upcoming character in Honkai Star Rail. I'm assuming the character's up and coming and not pre-existing. That's why it's getting an announcement. But again, I don't play Star Rail, so I'm not 100% sure what the context to that is. I just know that this announcement about Shawn Shiplock has come up, and a lot of people are calling him a hypocrite over it. Okay, so like I mentioned, I want to take a look at the JP version just to compare this scene, see if there's a voice there. This is now the JP version of the same trailer, and take a look.
聖将の軍が撤退しています。罠でしょうか。
もしくはもっと重要な命令があるのか。
So I'm assuming the second voice there was FaShio's Japanese VA, meaning, yeah, it does seem like FaShio is supposed to be voiced in the English version as well, but presumably Anerys is still FaShio and is still withholding work, and that's why in the English version there was no voice for FaShio. The final piece of context here regarding Anerys' involvement with the strike overall, or the collective work refusal overall, would be the tweet she made back on March 26th that read, "Hey Genshin Impact Honkai Star Rail Zenless Zone EN, Zenless Zone 0 EN. We English VAs would love to get back to work. I know the fans miss hearing their favorite Karas, and we miss voicing them. Please negotiate with SAG-AFTRA and sign the interim agreement to guarantee AI protections for us." To my recollection, that tweet got community noted, with people pointing out how it's about a lot more than AI protections and that these people are essentially misleading all of us. You know, the stuff that we talked about before, of course. But SAG-AFTRA responded to Anerys, quote tweeting her specifically, saying what Anerys Q said. "Genshin Impact Honkai Star Rail Zenless Zone 0 EN will make it easy for you." Oh yeah, easy for you. Here's a link to our interactive video game media agreements. Let's talk soon. This also getting community noted, and Anerys not just deleting her tweet, but also, I believe, untagging herself from SAG's tweet as well. And I know I've brought this same thing up multiple times in the past, and that's because, one, it is maybe the best example we have of SAG-AFTRA being involved with the collective work refusal, even though it's unofficial or whatever. In particular, because some VAs have said that SAG-AFTRA is not involved in the collective work refusal at all, but clearly there is some level of involvement. I think it's likely they're probably just trying to act as some sort of mediator for the agreement, but I digress. It still is involvement on some level. And two, because the whole thing with Anerys is like attempting to like gaslight people and get Hoyo to sign this agreement only for her to like end up deleting her take and untagging herself. I mean, that's just peak comedy right there. It's hilarious. And so that takes us back over to this news about Shawn Shiplock being cast as Zephyro in Star Rail. We will read just a few more responses from people here at the top and then hop over to Blue Sky once again, because Shawn Shiplock has kind of responded to this stuff. Not like the people calling him out directly, but he did issue a statement about why he's justifying working on Star Rail while still refusing to work on Genshin, despite both games, of course, being Hoyo games. So we left off with this one. Let's take a look at a few more. For example, right here. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad to hear him. He's got a great voice, and it's always a pleasure to hear it, in my opinion. However, after him saying, along with Kaylee saying they are still striking Hoyo on BS, Blue Sky, this just feels kind of hypocritical. And the next one saying maybe he realizes that Hoyo is done with their games, and it's either you come back or you're done. That's it. You come back or you're done. Isn't he on strike, says the next one, and the one right below that saying the day that Shawn Shiplock stops getting what? Hold up. The day that Shawn Shiplock stops getting roles is the day the voice acting industry will be saved. And then this one saying, geez, people are being jerks. Why am I not surprised? Where's the positive comments? Oh, wait, there aren't any of them here. Oh, boy, everyone in the comments will be positive. Wait, so he will continue to strike Genshin, but not Honkai Star Rail? Last I remember, everyone who strikes in Genshin also strikes in Honkai Star Rail. Yeah, you can see, like, I'm not going to read any more of these, but you can see that they go on and on. Basically, almost every response is mocking him. This one says, get him out of here, gets 1,300 likes with this GIF. Yeah. You clearly get the picture. Now, once again, hopping over to Blue Sky, aka BS, I guess. Shawn Shiplock responds to Star Rail Universe saying Zephyro, with Shawn's response being simply a smiley face. As we know, he has been cast as Zephyro for Star Rail. Now, here's where we get Shawn's response of sorts. As this user says, not to be that annoying guy, but what makes Star Rail so different from Genshin voice acting wise, that means you're voicing for it, but not Genshin. Shawn Shiplock says, different contract. But things get even more interesting when we scroll down to the bottom of the page, because I noticed this. A little button here that says show hidden replies. Now, I myself am not a Blue Sky user, so I wanted to be sure what this really meant. Because, yeah, to me, it looks like he's hiding the freaking thing, maybe. But maybe hidden replies is, like, automatically done by Blue Sky, and it's not something Shawn Shiplock did, to be fair. So I looked up Blue Sky, what are hidden replies? And assuming this is correct, it reads, on Blue Sky, hidden replies are comments on a post that have been removed from the main view by the original poster. So if that's true, then yeah, Shawn Shiplock hid the response that we're about to take a look at right now. So hopping back over to Blue Sky once again, this post by Shawn Shiplock, at the very bottom we can see show hidden replies, and let's click it. It reads, I don't know, but doesn't this imply the studio is the issue, not Hoyo? And this is such a weird comment to hide. It's not like an NSFW bot trying to scam people. It's not like some scam link or anything like that. Person asks a reasonable question. I don't know, but doesn't this imply the studio is the issue, not Hoyo? Hidden. Making this all even stranger is when Shawn Shiplock said this. First, the context. User Lego Bionicle fan said, so what are you planning to do? Are you coming back to voicing Genshin anytime soon? That being a response to this post that we read earlier about him wanting to continue the strike. But he responded to that Lego person saying, I am ready to return to work on it the very instant that I can have protections written into my contract that prevent my voice from being modified by AI or used to train it. Lego Bionicle fan says, is the contract with Hoyo or the recording studio they use? Shawn Shiplock says, I believe it's with the former through the latter, but even if I happen to be wrong on that, it doesn't change the fact that it doesn't have what I'm asking to be added. Yeah, but the thing is, you're not just asking something to be added. You and a number of other VAs are literally trying to have some collective work refusal strike thing done against Hoyoverse. But then here, you're basically saying you're not even really sure who's responsible for the part of the contract you want in there not being in there. So it's like, guys, what are y'all even really doing here? This is not something new. For many months now, a lot of us have been criticizing the VAs because they can't even get their own story straight. It's just being another example of how a lot of these people don't even seem to know what they're really like doing or saying, like what they're really talking about. And look, to be fair, on some level, it is understandable. If you sign a contract, you should know exactly what that contract entails. But to be fair, the first time you read it, even the first X number of times you read it, you might not fully understand it, and you want to come to a complete understanding of what that contract says, what your obligations are, and you may want to negotiate with the company or whatever to try and get something removed from the contract, or in this case, something added to the contract. So I can understand like being confused about this stuff. But these people specifically made this whole matter public. This is not something they were handling behind the scenes. It's not like they were individually trying to negotiate contracts and things in the contract for themselves, right? No, they've been very much trying to make this a public matter, trying to get the public to support them, trying to get other actors as well to stand in solidarity with them. Otherwise, they call them scabs and harass them online and try and say they're terrible people, you know, all the sort of stuff that we've seen them do. So it's just a bad look altogether when they're operating in such a manner. And then they also, on top of that, don't seem to know what they're talking about. I will restate the point one time really quick. If this was a private matter and they don't know what they're talking about, but it's all being done privately and they're trying to come to a better understanding of what they're talking about and what's in the contract and how they can resolve these issues, fine, fair enough, that's normal. But making this a public thing specifically and trying to use the public to pressure other actors and like turn people on each other, against each other, excuse me, by trying to make some sort of moral implication that if you're not standing with the strike, you're a bad person. And then these people can't even get their story straight and all that. It's just a terrible look. And that takes us back to where he hid this. Why hide this? Dude's literally just asking, I don't know, but doesn't this imply the studio is the issue, not Hoyo? And apparently Shawn Shiplock is so over this conversation that he's just hiding people who are asking reasonable questions like this now. I don't even know what else to say about it. I guess that's really it. Really weird stuff. But hey, that's the situation. That's Shawn being cast now in Honkai Star Rail. Apparently he's okay with it for the reasons that we went over. But as you can see, by far the majority of the responses on this news back on Twitter are calling him out. That might not be the case here on Blue Sky, but on Blue Sky, there's literally 0 responses to this tweet anyways, or this post anyways, in comparison to the post about this news over on Twitter, which had probably at least like near 100 responses. And by far the majority that we saw from Brief Scroll were criticizing Shawn for this action. But let me know what you think about what Shawn has done here in the comments. And the other stuff we talked about too, if you find that interesting. Let me know what you think about all the stuff in the video. And if you enjoyed my coverage, please consider liking and or subscribing. Appreciate you. See you in the comments here and in the next one.